to see everybody tonight. We have a great honoring excellence, several important and worthy recognitions. We're going to go ahead and keep the trend going here from the last several months. We have two more state champions with us here this evening, and I'm going to have both of them actually join me here at the podium. John Redmond, please come forward. Also, Eka Joza, please join me. These two, you may have seen a few things about this pair, both from Liberty North High School, both recent graduates of Liberty North High School. Recently, they competed at the Misha State Track and Field Championships down at Jefferson City the weekend, last weekend in May, late May. And Mr. Redmond here comes back with not one but two state championships, both in the 100 meters and the 200 meters. The fastest man in Missouri right here stands right next to us here in the boardroom this evening. So talking to John, of course, John's mom, Chris, longtime LPS employee, nurse at Shoal Creek, awesome nurse for us, and talking to both John's mom and dad. Boy, what a family, what a career for him, multi-sport, and he is off to West Point coming up this fall, so just a tremendous, both of these, and you've probably again heard their story, but they're both phenomenal, not just on the track or on the field, but in the classroom and beyond. So I would like to present Mr. John Redmond with an award for winning both the 100 meter and 200 meter events at the Misha State Championships. Congratulations. And standing just to my left, this is Eka Joza, and she won a state championship on the same day, just probably within hours, in the long jump in Jefferson City at the Misha State Championships. And Eka, she will be on her way to St. Louis coming up. As I talked to her before our meeting, she will be going to Washington University. So again, they've done some great features on her in the media in the last several weeks, and her story is amazing. If you get a chance to go back on her Twitter page, you might find one of the feature stories they did, and obstacles that she's overcome, and she has overcome them with flying colors. So we're so lucky to have her with us here tonight, and here is your award. Congratulations.
We have a tradition here, so if you'll join me and stand, give a standing ovation to our state champion.
Awesome job. You both may be seated. Megan Bright, if you would please join me next. This is an annual award that we present, and that is the Carol Brown Excellence in Professional Development Award. I have it right here. We pulled it off of the wall up on the 4th floor earlier today, and I appreciate Jeanette Westfall and her help getting ready for this evening. Just to tell you a little bit about this Carol Brown Excellence in Professional Development Award, it is designed to recognize Liberty Public Schools employees who exemplify effective use of professional development. These individuals strive for continual self-improvement, as well as act as a voice for professional development in their building and department. These are the professionals who walk the walk when it comes to new initiatives and do what is best for students and adults in Liberty Public Schools. As we have shared with you, this award named after Carol Brown, who was a longtime employee of ours in Liberty Public Schools. We lost Carol back several years ago, and her memory lives on with this award. Her husband Bill is with us tonight, also her daughter Carrie with us here this evening, and we always appreciate them coming back, and it's great to reconnect with them each year. To tell you a little bit about Megan, and many of you know her from Lillian Schumacher Elementary. You're a recent SOAR Award recipient, I think.
No.
Oh, you did not get
No, I
one?
have not won one.
Oh,
No.
you.
But if you'd like to come visit me, I work at
Let me correct that. You nominated
I did,
someone
yes,
that won
I
a
did.
SOAR Award. This is a little bit about Megan, and this is some things she submitted. As a teacher and librarian, I am foremost a learner, always seeking out new information that will allow me to provide the best possible instruction and resources to my students. I make use of all professional development opportunities that are available to me at the local, state, and national levels. Within my building, I serve as the leader of the innovations team, working to bring new teaching strategies and support to all Schumacher teachers. At the district level, this year I have participated in the LEADS Instructional Innovation Designer Network, working with a collaborative team from assorted grade and content levels to work to improve instruction in our classrooms and positively impact student achievement. And all of her involvement goes on and on. If you've ever been to Schumacher, the makerspace in their library, that's now underway and just doing phenomenal things with that. So I really don't think there could be a better recipient for this award. And also want to recognize Mr. Gabriel still here. There he is, right here. Chris Gabriel, principal at Schumacher. Appreciate him taking time out of his busy summer schedule to join us and be with us here this evening. So this is the official award with your name engraved, and here is your certificate. So congratulations, Megan Bright. And finally, many of us in the room know about the Audit and Finance Committee and all of the hard work that this group does each and every year for our district. And there are several individuals that are rolling off of this committee, and it has become tradition that we take a moment to recognize them and present them with their certificate as they leave the Audit and Finance Committee. So I know I'm going to read off our first recipient, and that would be Mr. Steven Spencer, because I know he is here. I just talked to him a little bit earlier. Mr. Spencer, congratulations. Let's give him a round of applause. Oh yes, Dean. Let's go Mr. Luke McNabney. And Dean Fillenweider. Is Linda Bell here? I do not believe she could make it this evening, but she did want to send her best, and she appreciated the gesture by the district and wanted to pass that along to the board that she's enjoyed her time serving on this committee. So I will be sure to deliver this to her. And with that, that concludes Honoring Excellence for this evening.
Thank you, Dallas. And Dallas, thank you for recognizing the audit and finance folks who have served the district for the past year. This is a pretty big district with lots of activity going on, and it's very helpful to have extra eyes looking on what's going on and make sure that it's being reviewed and monitored for the taxpayers in the community. So it's a great help to this board, and I really appreciate your service and willingness to help take care of the taxpayers' money so that we can all take care of the kids as well. So, thank you. All right, good honoring excellence. We are going to take a brief break, but before we do, if you're here for public comment, if you would complete one of the blue cards out on the table outside and return it to me, you'll have an opportunity to speak at the podium. But let's get back together at 1:15. And in the meantime, it gives us a chance to recognize the honorees.
We're waiting on you, dude.
That's awesome.
I said, I used to have a gavel. And everyone goes, oh, there's a gavel over here.
10. Lots of important things to say.
All right. We're back. We need to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting.
I
I
move
move-
before approve the agenda as presented.
Oh, second.
Thank you. Shannon?
Scott,
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Andy?
Wait for your name to be called.
Marie?
I heard my name. That doesn't mean she said my name, but I heard my name.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah, Marie?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. We are to the public comment section of the meeting. I have one card. Is that the only person that wants to speak this evening? If so, Andrew White, if you'd come to the podium right there. And before you get started, just a little bit of ground rules here. People addressing the board will be asked to not repeat what someone before has said. Persons wishing to address any subject concerning Liberty Public Schools and/or
Education.
Lost the whole thing. And/or education may do so at the podium. Persons addressing the board are asked to keep their remarks concise and to the point. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. A person or persons may speak only once at the meeting. Concerns brought forward during public comment may be addressed by the superintendent or appropriate staff members, usually within a week. So with that preamble, Andrew.
Okay. I'd like to begin with really just a question. Why is it that Liberty School District is not included in the Metropolitan Community College District? I find it ludicrous that they're not.
So the way that the rules work for us, we really can't talk about a topic unless it's been posted on the agenda. So we're not in a position to really have an active
Okay.
dialogue around your question.
Okay,
So it's not personal, it's the way the
Sure.
sunshine rules work.
gotcha.
Because if other people are interested in it, then they can
Great.
attend.
Okay,
as
well, then
So-
should I just continue with why I'm there?
Perfect. That would be good.
I recently retired, and a friend of mine who lives closer to, on the Kansas City side, is taking, he's also retired, and he's taking classes for free. And so, I mean, I went to school there many years ago, and at the time, I was taking some classes. I lived on that side, and then I moved on this side, and I was just totally blown away by how the increase in tuition, you know, how much it was. When I asked at the school about it, I don't know how accurate it is, but I was told there by several people that the assessment per household is only $14 a year. And the amount that it would save students on their tuition is just unbelievable compared to $14. And I can understand maybe some people who are older like me might say like, well, I don't have kids at school, why should I worry? But as I stated a minute ago, you can take classes there for free. So, you know, people of all age groups can benefit by that. And I just would strongly encourage the school district to maybe, I don't know what the process is to make that happen. You know, if I need to be involved in it, I'm here. But I think having some kind of support from the school district on that, you know, that's something that would benefit. In this day and age, education is paramount. So I'd really like to see something move forward on that, as soon as possible. So
Great.
that's it.
I appreciate your comments. My guess is somebody will be following up with you shortly on this topic.
Okay.
And we have your contact info.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
thank you. All right, we are to the consent agenda portion of the meeting. And our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board subcommittee review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member.
I move the board approve consent agenda items 4.01 through 7.04.
Thank you.
Second.
Scott,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, that brings us to school board policy updates, and there's a slew of them.
A slew.
You have several in front of you this evening, which is not the first time you've seen them, in that we are at a point this evening of actually finalizing the board policies that we've been looking at over the course of the last couple of months. And so you have the list of items that we'll be recommending to you this evening for approval as a second read. I'd also point out that you have an administrative procedure for board review. Keep in mind, those don't necessarily require formal board approval. They're procedural in nature. We just want to ensure that they line up to our practice within Liberty Public Schools. So that's for your information only. So the recommendation this evening would be to approve the policies for adoption on second read. I'll make another comment in respect to one of our study session items that we talked about earlier this month, and that is looking to the 2017-2018 board meetings, and that we will be looking at board policy and having those revisions for you to take informal action on at our July meeting. Keep in mind the July meeting is set with our existing calendar and our new schedule in terms of moving from Monday night to Tuesday nights will take effect as of August in our August regular monthly meeting. So present those board policies for you for approval this evening.
I move the board adopt the policies listed on second read. Second.
Any discussion or questions about any of the policies this evening? Tandy?
Scott,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
motion carries.
Unfinished business, we have administrator compensation plans.
As you will recall, at our May meeting, we were ready to present to you the final recommendations of our Evergreen study, which are contained in Chapter 5 of their report. We were in the process of cleaning up some information, logistical information, semantics with Evergreen in respect to Chapters 1 through 4. You have the finalized, completed document, Chapters 1 through 5. I want to draw your attention to the specific recommendations that were brought forward from the Evergreen salary study as it relates to the administrative compensation plans. The first of which, recommendation number 1, is to adopt the proposed salary table that you have contained within board docs this evening to address the weaknesses in the administrative salary table identified by the Evergreen study as it relates to Liberty Public Schools. The second recommendation is to adopt the proposed grade order list and recommended class title changes, which are minimal, but that attempts to ensure both internal and external equity for administrators in Liberty Public Schools, and then also to adjust employee salaries using an experience parity model. Recommendation number 3 is solicited from focus groups, from interviews and phone calls, and that Evergreen is proposing no change to the administrative supplement, which are longevity stipends, with the exception of incorporating the $9,900 stipend for grades 13 and 14, or columns 13 and 14, as it relates to the schedules. into the administrative salary schedule itself, since it is not a longevity-based supplement. Recommendation number 4, for the sake of consistency and uniformity, is assigning all central office administrators in the Liberty Public School Districts to a 250-day annual work schedule. Currently, we have some that are on a 250 schedule, others that are on a 260-day schedule. So after quite a bit of research, the recommendation was to maintain consistency at that 250-day annual work schedule. And then the 5th recommendation is to adopt a job assessment tool, or the GAT, as well as market database methodologies from Evergreen to consistently evaluate new and updated position titles that occur over the course of the year within Liberty Public Schools. And in essence, setting up a system or a process to evaluate these positions in real time rather than waiting to a formal particular study conducted by Evergreen or other providers. There was a 6th recommendation. This is really a suggestion from Evergreen that the studies be conducted every 3 to 5 years. And so we noted that, but nonetheless would present these items to you this evening, recommendations 1 through 5, for formal adoption by the Board of Education. Upon your approval, we will begin the process of initiating contract addendums as early as tomorrow and getting that out to our administrative team.
A lot in there. Are there questions? Any of these recommendations this evening? If not, you're seeking approval.
Yes.
I move the board adopt Evergreen's recommendations in the 2017-2018 administrator salary schedule as presented.
Second.
Scott,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
motion carries.
So the district budget.
And we have spent a little bit of time on this one as well over the course of the last several months. I cannot express how grateful we are to Cindy Sullivan and her team back in the Business Services Department, as well as Team Liberty, our HR folks, as well as the Administrative Salary and Welfare Committee. A couple of key highlights real quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Cindy. In respect to the information contained in board docs, it pulls out a couple of key items. In looking at the recommended budget document this evening for the 17-18 school year, total revenues projected to be at $142,910,236. Compare that to anticipated expenditures, projected expenditures to be at $135,849.58. In addition to revenues and expenditures, operating fund balances, a percentage ending at 24.27. To include capital projects, that would take it to 23.49% in respect to an overall fund balance. So just a couple of key highlights. We spent considerable time starting back in January and then certainly February, but then in March and April and May, looking at revenue pictures, our expenditure picture, our preliminary budget document. Appreciate the work of audit and finance as well. We'll turn it over to Cindy this evening for any additional comments before we recommend the 17-18 budget document to the board for approval.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. Just a couple of things to point out. The document that's presented to you tonight is basically the very same document that you saw in May. Changes were made to the staffing page, the salary schedules, and the calendars, which were pages where changes were made and that you have approved at previous board meetings or where administrators were appointed and became known to us. So they replaced a to be determined with a name. So only informational items have been changed to the document. I did, as you'll see in my report later on, receive assessed valuation preliminary information. Since it is preliminary, we did not go ahead and change the document because final numbers will not be available until August. And as per normal practices, then in September or October, after employee cost projections are done, the levy has been voted on, we will start amending our budget as we do every month to update it for most available and current information.
But no material changes as far as the
No
assumptions
number.
around state budget?
No. We have no new information from the state regarding information that would change this document at this time. And like I said, assessed valuation numbers are just preliminary, so I don't have final levy information to update the document with.
We're in very good shape. Fund balance is looking good, so.
Right.
And the assessed valuation number is trending in the right direction.
Yes, which we'll report on a little bit later. I'll tell you about that.
Well, I would move the board adopt the 2017-2018 district budget.
Second.
Any other questions or clarifications before we vote? We've spent lots of time, and it's nice that there aren't surprises.
Yes.
So, thanks.
Scott,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, on to new business.
First item, 10.01, is contracts and purchases. So we have a couple of items that we wanted to provide information to you, and so I will turn it over to Mr. Anderson in respect to a couple of agreements that we have to put before you this evening.
Thank you. These are just the next two agreements lining up with respect to the Building Pride campaign. Both of these are related to the video board. I think they're 3-year contracts, one with William Jewell College and the other is with McDonald's. And these will continue to flow forward here in the next couple months as we wrap up the naming rights part and the video board agreements for the campaign. We have to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson?
I move the board approve the William Jewell College and Essig Management sponsorship agreements.
Scott,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next item is 10.02, and so as Dr. Westfall makes her way to the podium, this is in respect to district curriculum review. And we've been having a conversation over the course of the last several months to really the need for us to bring to the Board of Education curriculum as it is finalized for formal board approval. To give you a little bit of history, it's been a little while since we've done this, but for good reason. And that you may recall, at the national level, we had some work being done around the Common Core state standards. And then that took a different turn in respect to the Missouri legislature getting involved, but have finally, over the course of the last year or so, landed with the Missouri Learning Standards. So we have a little more clarity both at the state level and the national level. And I appreciate Dr. Westfall and her team, teachers, and a variety of administrators who have been involved in studying our trajectory over the course of this uncertainty from Common Core to Missouri Learning Standards and where we're at today. They've done a phenomenal job. One of the things that you will notice as we move forward with this conversation and how to roll out curriculum for approval by the Board of Education is moving away from the pages and pages and pages of curriculum to be adopted to technology as to how we capture it, how we archive it, how we share it to you. So we'll have a little bit of light reading for you. Rather than inundate you all at once at one meeting, we're going to spread it out over the course of a couple of meetings. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Westfall to provide the overview as we move forward with curriculum adoption.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Tucker. I'm really excited to share this with you because this will be, I hope, an exciting time for you to see all of the pathways that our teachers are taking to teach all the courses in our district. So we're going to start tonight with K-5 curriculum, but first I wanted to kind of give you an overview of the process. So this is the cliff notes of curriculum. I can tell you that as an English teacher. We're going to skip all the story and we're going to hit the highlights. So you have this to follow along, but then we're going to talk about 3 components: the teacher leadership, which super proud of the teacher work that we've done, the curriculum framework, how we set up the curriculum, and then finally what we're going to have you approve and the process that we're going to follow for the next couple of months. So the first thing is the teacher leadership. You probably know this, but we have a curriculum council. We have one at elementary level and we have one at the secondary level. There are about 35 teachers on each council. They represent all buildings and all grade levels and all content areas. Those teacher leaders then they meet 3 times a year. Twice a year, they bring in teacher representatives from every grade level and every content area in meetings that we call heads of state. So by the time we finish, all 45, for example, 3rd grade teachers will have touched the curriculum that we look at and approve each year. The second group of people is the content teams. Because of the House Bill 1490 work that we had to do this year, we wanted to make sure that we didn't tap the same teachers over and over and over again, bringing them out of the classroom 6 times this year in 4 different content areas. So we used what we would call the content teams. We had about 15 to 20 people per content area that then worked on the curriculum and then took it to the heads of state. So that was a little adjustment from the curriculum council, a little bit different this year. And then last but not least, we really heavily leaned on our innovation and learning coaches to help take the content areas and guide the teachers, not making the decisions for them, but just kind of give them a continuity across all of the content areas. So that's our teacher leadership. The curriculum framework, each one of these is linked for you, so I'm just going to touch on them briefly and then allow you to look at them together. So the first one is the Missouri Learning Standards. Those standards, the beauty of the Missouri Learning Standards, and one of the gifts I think that the state allows us, is they recommend the state level expectations, but our curriculum is under local control. So we get to decide what we want to put in it, how we want to do it, and what pacing we want to use. So we love that they allow that for us. The one thing that holds us accountable, of course, is the state assessment, which is aligned to the expectations. The second thing are the Liberty Public Schools Standards Overview. So we have a theory of why we pick the curriculum that we do, and what you'll see on that page are the filters that we use to decide the priorities of our standards. Because, for example, in science, in 8th grade, there's 142 standards. We know that teachers must make decisions every day on what standards to teach. So we collectively came together and we decided our priorities. We decide them through a filter of what is life necessary, what do we need to know for life, what do we need to know for our next course, and then finally, what do we need to know to be assessed. So we put those in the proper filter order, and then we make sure that we're teaching those things across a scope and sequence so that everybody is on the same path at the same rate, all of our students getting the same instruction. And then last but not least, we have essential curriculum requirements, and those requirements are to allow, although each community designs their curriculum the way that they want. So middle school math designs what they teach a little bit differently than middle school science. However, we have elements across the board that all curriculum must meet, and so what you'll see there is the requirements that we ask of all content areas, whether it's first grade or high school physics. All right, then 3. This is the curriculum that we're looking for you to approve. So this time, you're going to look at K-5 essential standards. When you get to that page, what you'll see are the 4 core, ELA, science, social studies, and math. And you'll see the elements that I would like you to look through this month, and that is the learning standards. So we've selected all the learning standards and we've unwrapped them, which means our teachers know exactly what the expectation is, and a 2nd grade teacher at Schumacher has the same unwrapped expectations as at Shoal Creek. So they all have the same understanding of those expectations. Then we put a pacing guide in there. I just want you to know that our pacing guide is a strongly suggested guide because we recognize that teachers have PBLs. We're investing a lot of time in the units of PBLs, and we want them to design their units around passionate projects, and so we allow them to move that around. But we want them to know that this is the guide that we say, if you don't do that, we want you to follow what we've given you. Last but not least, we have our resources and our assessments, so those are available for you to look at. And then the proficiency reporting guide is the new framework for our report cards. So we're using what we would call a proficiency level. If a student is to meet proficiency, then they would accomplish all these tasks, and the teachers then only need to say that they haven't met them or they've done above. And so when we report that, we felt like this would make it easier for parents and teachers to be able to report and understand what a student has learned in respect to the standards.
And that bullet specifically addresses one of the things we heard from Advanced Ed. Okay.
As far as areas of focus.
Yeah.
So we knew we were working on it, so we were happy that they identified it. I just wanted to drop one thing in. One of the things that we're doing with our curriculum as we transition to non-purchased resources, so we're calling those open education resources. One of the things we're doing is licensing our resource. So that means that while we created it or we curated it, we pulled these things together, we don't mind if other people use it, but what we want to do is give Liberty teachers the credit for the creation and the curation. So if you're interested in that, I would love to share that with you. It's pretty fun to walk through and see. It's real simple. But feel free to play on there and say, this is what I would like to do, because if you're willing to share your own work, then that's something that you can even license in your own personal life. And so that leads us to the Board of Education approval process. That's the last slide. Tonight, we're presenting to you K-5 core for a first read. Then we will go through the approval next month with a first read on secondary. And then we'll do a final approval on secondary in August. And then next year, we would like to follow the same path as we start our rotation for revisited curriculum. We are actually on physical education and health, and then we'll bring up the next, every 6 years we roll through the new content, and so we would like to start presenting that to you piece by piece so that you don't have so much. Beautiful House Bill 1490 made it kind of a lot this time. So.
What questions do you have for Dr. Westfall?
The teachers did amazing work. I just want to.
And the one thing she did not mention, and I kept listening for it, in that other districts as well as our State Department are looking to Liberty as it relates to the work that we're doing with curriculum. And so, as mentioned, it's a testament to our teacher teams, but then also to the work that Dr. Westfall and Academic Services has done over the course of the last several years. So, to be commended for that.
Very exciting. The science assessment, Dr. for the state.
Yep.
So that one we know for sure.
I forget exactly how you described it, but the pacing guideline of there's an art to getting that authentic project based, but also getting everybody where they need to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do want to allow some autonomy in that design because we know that makes for great instruction, but we also have a guarantee to our families, you know, that everyone's being educated equitably in our district and they're not missing things. So we can give our teachers some artistic ability, you know, to design that curriculum, but we know what we want them to learn.
The genius of the and.
Yes, the genius of it. So that's.
So no action this evening, other than happy reading as you dive into the curriculum links that she's provided, so appreciate that. We'll be back at you in July with action and another round of secondary level core content areas. So thank you, Dr. Westfall. So she's going to stay at the podium for 10.03 in respect to the 2017-2018 Professional Development Plan, and that this will require formal action. Keep in mind, this is an item that we bring back to you regularly with some minor changes, but at the same time, it kind of sets the stage or a roadmap, so to speak, for Liberty Public Schools as it relates to professional development and kind of where we're headed in the next school year. So, Dr. Westfall.
The Professional Development Committee is pleased to submit to you their professional development plan for 2017-2018. This is a traditional plan that has all the elements of the district's professional development opportunities that we will provide to our staff in the next year. The two highlights from this plan are we will be focusing on visible learning, which is the Corwin work with John Hattie's meta-analysis of what is best instruction and how are we to reach student achievement at its highest levels. And the second one is, of course, the continuation of our project-based learning program. So those are the two biggest projects. A smaller project which we are investing in is K-5 math. And we're really going to dig into our math instruction and just shore up some of those practices. Now that we have our curriculum aligned, we can really address those common K-5 practices and start bringing them up to speed. So,
how much of that is opt-in and how much of it is everybody goes through the same thing? Is it all?
It is so
required?
good everyone opts in.
Okay. So the answer to my question is yes. It's opt-in, but everybody participates.
They really have. I mean, we at this point, we've not offered enough that we haven't filled the coffers.
And specifically related to the PBL training from that standpoint. And I know with the visible learning experiences, that will start off early August in terms of, is it the third, fourth in terms of those PD sessions prior to school even starting. And so keep in mind, that fits with the book study that we focused on and as it relates to coherence and those right drivers. The right drivers being the conversation around strong pedagogy, instructional best practice. And so as you do that research and you do that reading around instructional practices, it's Marzano and Hattie are probably the two that come to mind as it relates to the research around what works with students. So we're excited to be able to focus on that. That's really equipping teachers with the right tools for the toolbox, for lack of a better phrase. So, it's good work. Other questions for Dr. Westfall? Okay, we would just recommend the 2017-18 professional development plan as presented.
I move the board adopt the 2017-2018 professional development plan.
Second.
Sandy?
Scott?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries.
10.04 is another item that we often see this time of year, and that is in respect to the 17-18 nutrition or meal prices. And so you have quite a bit of information contained in board docs along with a chart of some historical information. I want to turn it over to Mr. Anderson to hit the highlights. This will be a formal action item following his comments.
Thank you. Yes, this is an annual action required of the board, and as is mentioned here in the report, it's heavily influenced by the Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act and USDA regulations and how they factor reimbursement into the meal program. This year, we're proposing no changes to the breakfast plans and no changes to milk. We're going to charge an additional nickel to the lunch program through each level. And the most significant change is a 55-cent change to the Premium Plus meal, which is kind of an opt-in for those who want to experience a more restaurant-like meal. And so I asked for a count of that, typically about $6,200 a month. So it's a pretty popular buy-up or opt-in for certain students. And so this is really to make sure that we're covering all those costs and not shifting costs back to the base level. So other than that, I think it's pretty standard, straightforward. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson?
This is primarily set by the state, correct?
Well, and also driven by the federal level in terms of the Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act.
Yeah, I should say government.
Yes,
It's
government.
not, we're not sitting down deciding what we're going to charge for milk today
That's right. It's heavily influenced by
with the cost
federal.
recovery. I just always think it's helpful to say that we're not in control of a lot of these prices.
We did have some leeway as to rolling it out, as did all districts. Some got there faster than others, but yeah, there was some leeway there on the local district level. Yeah. Additional questions for Mr. Anderson?
Motion. I move the board approve the 2017-2018 breakfast and lunch prices.
Second.
Scott?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we had an opportunity to interview a candidate for the Audit and Finance Committee earlier this evening, and so we need to have a motion if we're going to ask him to serve.
I move the board appoint Nick Bartlow to serve a 3-year term on the Audit and Finance Committee.
Second.
There you go.
Scott?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Certainly appreciate his interest and seems to have the skills we need to watch the numbers and take care of the community. Report from the administration.
First up is academic services, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Elizabeth Height.
Summer has been a really busy time in academic services. Some think we slowed down, but summer school is rolling, and as are our intensive study and work group sessions. So I'd like to publicly appreciate the effort and time that our teachers and administrators have done this summer to prepare for next school year as we roll in to provide the best quality of education that we can for our kids. You will find in your board docs some reports this evening, and I wanted to bring your attention to those. You'll see special education in there, early childhood, federal programs, and curriculum. Really appreciate the time and effort that was put into doing those program evaluations, and more importantly, the time and effort that they spend in really maximizing great programs. That's all we have. Any questions or things I can answer for you?
Any questions for Dr. Hyde? Thank you. Next up is Finance. Ms. Sullivan?
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. Just wanted to point out of my report that we're estimating an ending fund balance for 16-17 at a little over 24%. That was as of the close of business on Thursday when we wrapped up, or Wednesday when we wrapped up accounting to report to you tonight. We are still writing checks and paying bills through the end of June 30, so that will change just a little bit, and we will have the final fund balance percentage to you at the July meeting with the final financial statements for the year 2016-17. So it won't be right at that spot on, but it'll be very close. I indicated earlier that we had received assessed valuation preliminary numbers. We put 5% increase in the budget. Actually, right now, they're sitting at an increase of 5.8282%. And typically what happens when we get the final numbers in August, it will eke up a little from that as well. That's been past history. Can't guarantee it, but that's what I'm expecting. So that's always good news. That will lead to more revenue, obviously, and a change in our tax levy between the funds. So we will talk about that at our August board meeting at the tax levy hearing, but you'll anticipate that. And that will then lead to, as I alluded to earlier, the budget amendment to increase revenue from property taxes in September, October, for the good report on our assessed valuation. I also wanted to report out on the Building Pride campaign since that wrapped up at the end of May. As of June 6th, the total pledges and one-time donations were $636,362.38. We have drawn down $281,812.70 to pay some bills out of that already. But most of all, I wanted to thank the foundation for their support and their partnership in this activity that enabled us to collect money and make it easy for people to do that. So we do appreciate all of the support of the foundation and what they've done to make this go fairly smoothly for all concerned. That's all I have for you tonight.
Questions for Cindy? Under 11.03, you have the Human Resources Report. Dr. Vogelaar extends his apologies for not being here this evening as the annual conference takes place this time each year. So he is off learning all things human resources related, but his information is contained therein. I do want to express appreciation to him as well as Cindy for all of their work on the Evergreen study. And it's been a lot of back and forth with the company in terms of asking just the right questions to get us to the recommendations this evening. But again, if you have questions concerning that report, please let me know, and then we'll get those to Dr. Vogelaar to clarify for you. Under 11.04, that is our operations report. So, Mr. Anderson.
A couple quick updates. First, as it relates to construction, want to give you an overview of where we're at with the activities complexes. As Cindy mentioned, money is coming in, but money's going right out as we're paying for a lot of the work that's taking place. In terms of schedule, we've really been fortunate to have had great weather, and they mobilized quick and they've gotten off to a great start. The projected completion date for Liberty North is July 24, and that's well in advance of the August 10 game, so that's in good shape. And at Liberty High, completion date is set today at August 15, which is well in advance of the August 25th game. And so everybody's feeling pretty good about the progress made to date, and kind of looking forward to seeing a lot more work come together here over the next month or so. Earlier in the agenda under consent, you did for the first, there were 4 change orders with respect to the campaign, all totaled about $270,000 in savings, so all 4 were deducts, and that was part of the value engineering that we've been undertaking and we briefed you all on last month. So we've gotten, I think, off to a good start on that as well. And you just received notice this morning that the video boards arrived. So if you drive by and you see large boards, and I don't know if it's in a box, I didn't get a chance to go by, but they are on site. I'd also like to point out that I kind of went around the district both Friday and today, several of the secure entries at South Valley Discovery, at Heritage, and they're all underway. And we're also getting ready to begin work in the 800 wings at Liberty High School to make way and clear some space for the band program over there. So everything is moving forward according to schedule. The last thing I wanted to point out is related to safety and security. One of the things that is part of the kind of program development, and when Dr. Tucker and I first onboarded, we didn't have a very sophisticated incident reporting system. And so Gary Majors has worked hard in researching that, and we are getting ready to launch that come this fall. We spent quite a bit of time on that. It's going to be online. It'll allow for great circulation across departments and give us that one reporting mechanism to address all incidents that occur across the district. So that will be a change for us, but a positive change. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I am very excited to see that pilot about breakfast in the classroom at Doniphan, so
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing what that tells us.
Yeah. I had that on my report, but tried to condense it a little bit. But yes, they're very excited about that, and I think we're going to watch it very closely. They work very closely also with Kathy Ellemeyer in Health Services. You have allergy issues. It's pretty complicated, working with custodial staff. So it's a great idea, but the execution does require some work and cooperation. So I think this is a great way to test it out.
What are we doing at the high school in the 800s to make more room?
We're taking down effectively 2 walls to create a much larger space so the band is able to play in one space. It's somewhat of a temporary accommodation, but worked very closely with Aaron Money and the band department and found a way to do this in a creative way without spending a lot of money to give them the opportunity to all be in one space.
Any additional questions for Mr. Henderson?
Still on track for the fall? Weather's been good?
Pardon?
For playing in the fall, are we still on track?
For football?
For playing for the facilities, yes.
The complexes, yeah. They're both at least a week to 10 days ahead of that first game, and I think those are somewhat, we're feeling very good about having those wrapped up. And the dates I gave earlier are we're safe to kind of turn it over and play. So there might be some fine tuning that needs to occur with respect to Channel 18 and all that, but I think everybody's feeling great about having them play ready by the first games. Good.
11.05, Superintendent's Report. A couple of things to add to my report this evening. I want to start by recognizing Dr. Julie Moore and Miss Andrea Dixon Seahorn. They were with us at our study session a few weeks ago, but wanted to again acknowledge both of them and welcome them to the team officially as it relates to our strategic leadership team. You'll see a lot of them, and they're already off and running as it relates to their transition, connecting with administrators, and a lot of listening, I think, going on right now. So welcome to the two of them in their respective roles. Earlier this month, several of us attended the MSBA Leadership Summit, and overall wanted to highlight a couple of key presentations, just very briefly. A lot of information in and around budget as it relates to fully funding the formula, what that means, what that looks like, and as we've talked about with the Board of Education, albeit we are appreciative on one hand for the legislature fully funding the formula, we are cautious on the other hand in really knowing that that final disbursement at the end of a fiscal year in June is what really determines whether or not a formula is fully funded. So albeit we are walking into that knowing that the intent of the legislature is to fully fund the formula, a year from now, hopefully we will be able to report to you that in fact the formula has been fully funded. We're cautiously optimistic, but we'll certainly be giving you information along the way as we progress through the FY18 fiscal year. A couple of other highlights mentioned at the MSBA Leadership Summit. A lot of presentations in and around effective governance. And so it's interesting, as many of you have sat in on those MSBA sessions, to hear what other boards do successfully and maybe not so successfully, and to be able to glean from them and bring back ideas for our local school district to consider in moving forward. And then lastly, appreciate Angie participating in the delegate assembly and the work that was done there. Also forecasting a year from now what the next legislative session will entail as it relates to some items that we saw gain a little bit of traction over the course of the 2017 session that will likely be pre-filed legislation as we enter into December of 2017. So we can anticipate a lot of the similar topics or the same topics coming up over the course of this next legislative session. Additional items as it relates to upcoming events over the course of the summer. The DESE Cooperative Conference is scheduled for July 30th through August 1st, in which many of our strategic leadership team will be attending that conference. That's really kind of the big kickoff as it relates to gearing up for the start of the new school year. Our community partners meeting was held earlier last week at Liberty Hospital with an update provided by Norterre and that development that's going in adjacent to Liberty Hospital. We appreciate the partnership group as well as the update provided by Norterre. Our next meeting, if you'll put this on your calendars, is set for August 30th and will be hosted by William Jewell College. And so lock that in. We'll get you an additional list of upcoming dates as it relates to those community partner meetings. We're not set to host ours here in Liberty Public Schools until later during second semester, sometime in January, but we'll get those dates to you. In addition, early August, we will identify a number of items of which you are invited to. So be looking for that in terms of calendar invites in gearing up for the start of the new school year. And the last two things that I wanted to share, a couple of additional dates. The MSBA Annual Conference is set for October 5th through 8th. I know several of you have already indicated with Sandra your intent to attend, and so registration and lodging are being taken care of. Last thing I wanted to share in respect to this week is that on June 23rd, the Clay County African American Legacy Incorporated Group will be hosting Juneteenth. If you're not familiar with Juneteenth is the celebration of Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation in respect to a historically significant event. We have a table at this event with Clay County African American Legacy Group, and so we're looking forward to participating and celebrating with them, but be looking for photos from that particular event, and I'm sure the Tribune may run a story or so a little bit later on, but what a great celebration and opportunity for us to partner with the Garrison School. So we look forward to participating in that later this week. That concludes my report. Would certainly be open to any questions that the board may have.
What's going on? Board of Education reports. So we have a MOSIP resolution.
And so this is another annual item. And as you take a look at that, each year we see a couple of positions that are being nominated for the board of the MOSIP group. And so there are a couple of options for us to be able to act as a Board of Education. And you can see that on the final page. There is a bio that is presented for MSBA's delegate that they are recommending for office. And so there are two positions, one of which is for Superintendent Dr. Sean Smith, who is the superintendent at Carthage. He was formerly not too far from Kansas City area in Archie. And the second position vacancy is for Mr. Charles Quinn, who's currently serving as a board member for the Waynesville R6 School District. His bio is attached for your information. And as a Board of Education, we can act in one of three ways. We can be present, or we can attend via conference call in terms of acknowledging our vote for or against individuals. The second is to allow for a proxy for the MOSIP Board of Directors to vote on our behalf. And the third option is for us to hereby, with board action, formally vote and then submit that to MOSIP for their final tally, so to speak. And so in looking at those three options, the recommendation this evening would be for column 3, the Board of Education to read as a resolution the ballot for Dr. Sean Smith and then also for Mr. Charles Quinn, and then register that by way of Sandra's signature as our formal vote for the MOSIP Board of Directors. Any questions on that?
So it needs to be read into the record?
Entire thing?
Just that right-hand column, I believe.
Okay, I can't. I couldn't pull it up on mine. Okay, do we need some kind of thumbs up that we want to read this in and then have Senator sign it, or we actually, is this a motion? 'Cause I don't know.
So if you would like, I can read it, and then it would be a motion
To approve what
to
you just read.
approve as read, which would be the resolution, and then second, and so it would be a formal adoption at that point.
That's good.
Okay? All right.
It is.
The Liberty Board of Education hereby casts its votes in the following manner. Dr. Sean Smith, Mr. Charles Quinn. The foregoing was approved by resolution adopted by majority vote of the Board of Education on June 19th, and that is a 4 vote for those individuals.
So moved.
Second.
When you're ready?
Scott?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Kim Marie?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I think we got it done. Any board remarks this evening? No? In that case, the upcoming meetings are listed there. And those should reflect moving to Tuesdays starting in August.
They do.
So the July 17th is still a Monday, I believe. So, no other business before the board this evening. I entertain a motion.
I move the board adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you.
Scott?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Kim Marie?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks, all.
Thank you all.
And I will change the vote order for July.
So you're not going to pay
Andy and
attention?
Angie.